Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, October 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Maryland game is in 2 days. The game against Michigan in 51 days. All right, we are officially kind of turning the page from the Notre Dame game to that Maryland game. Ryan Day talked earlier in the week and really was not that interested in looking back at the Notre Dame game. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, maybe a little more broad strokes, because this was the first time we got a chance to talk to Ryan Day and Jim Knowles since the night of the Notre Dame game. We're going to talk a little bit more broad strokes about some of the questions that you have probably been asking online, or you've certainly seen other folks asking online about Ohio State's issues in short yardage, Ohio State's issues with getting the ball to Marvin Harrison at times, exactly how big that win was in terms of Kyle McCord's continued development, the improvement on the defense and how real that is and what all went into that. We're going to be talking about all of that today, and you're going to get to hear directly from Ryan Day and Jim Knowles about all of that. Let's start with, this was a question that got asked a whole bunch during and after that Notre Dame game. Ohio State has struggled a bunch in short yardage, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and they're really struggling to pick that up at the rates they want to get those. We'll get to that in a minute. But why are they not just quarterback sneaking?
When you line up under center, that's probably the first thing in a short yardage situation that everyone's going to take away. And then you go from there. So it's part of our short yardage package, whether it's appropriate to use or not. We try to do that on a day-to-day basis or a game-to-game basis. But now look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did with Hurts. He's a very big, strong, powerful player. I think with Justin Fields, we did it a lot. He really moved the pile. We've practiced it. Everyone has quarterback sneak in, and if we think it gives us a chance, we'll do it. But as you can imagine, we're really working hard on short yardage.
All right, now on to the bigger picture on those short yardage issues. Ryan Day said that they need to be north of 80% in terms of converting those 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 2 type plays. The number drops a little bit when you get up to 4th and 3, but he said not very much. So they're not even at 50% in those 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 situations right now. They want to be north of 80. They're not even at 50 right now. So are there specific areas of emphasis right now in order to get that fixed?
No, I just think in general, anytime you're in those situations, you look up matchups. There's always going to be extra people down towards the ball, and you got to win your one-on-one matchups, whether you're on defense or offense. You look at angles, you look at all those types of things to try to give your guys an advantage. And, sometimes you just got to, get bigger than the other guy, get stronger than the other guy, move them. If the guys up front are moving their guys forward and the running backs are running hard, that's part of it. Other times you got to look at maybe getting the ball in the perimeter or throwing it down the field when they're just, you're banging your head against the wall. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But yeah, in big games, a lot of it comes down to short yardage.
Every Ohio State quarterback over the years has a signature win or two or more. And the Notre Dame game on the road at night, last second comeback, that was Kyle McCord's first kind of signature win. So how has he been coming out of that week? And then where does Day still want to see Kyle McCord continue to grow?
Yeah, there was a lot of good things in the game, certainly finishing the way it happened. But, now it's on to Maryland, bigger challenges ahead. We got a lot of football ahead. And he's got to grow. He's got to get better in a lot of different areas, just like everybody else. But good to get that experience. But, yeah, we all need to be more efficient. We need to finish drives off better. And, there's a lot of plays that he wish he had back the other night. But now we're moving forward. We're after the bye week. We've addressed all those things, and now all the focus is on Maryland.
When you're a Ryan Day quarterback, there are just certain expectations. You're going to be a first-round NFL draft pick at some point. You're going to win a whole bunch of games, and you're going to get measured against the previous Ohio State quarterback. So how is Kyle McCord progressing compared to where Justin Fields or CJ Stroud were at this point in their journeys?
It's only a couple games. I don't think we can, leap to judgments. If we don't have that drive at the end of the game, where does that put them? But we did. So now where does that put them? You can't ride the roller coaster of that, good or bad. It is what it is. There's things that we got to get better at. There's things we're getting better each week at. But, you can't. It's more of the process, and I think with a quarterback, you have to do that because you can get caught up in everything else. There's a lot of things that come with each play. There's 21 other guys on the field that are, affecting where the decisions are in terms of where the ball is being thrown, all kinds of different variables. And The other thing is we only had 8 possessions in that game, so there wasn't as many opportunities as maybe you would like to do that. So we got to be better as a whole on offense of finishing drives off so that we can have more possessions and be more efficient.
One of the big frustrations for Ohio State fans this year has been not the Buckeyes not necessarily being able to get the ball to Marvin Harrison as much as they might want and as much as the fans at home might want. And a lot of that has to do with how teams are defending Marvin Harrison. You've seen more bracket coverage, 2 guys, a high guy and a low guy, just trying to keep them from make someone else beat you. Keep the ball away from Marvin Harrison and make somebody else on that Ohio State defense beat you. So how much is Ryan Day seeing that this year?
Yeah, I think that there's times where that's happening, and but you can't do that all the time either. But they definitely know where he is, and typically, they'll put a couple guys to his side or whatever that is, and it's based on the type of scheme that we're playing, but everybody knows where he is on the field for sure.
Is that strategy, the take away Marvin Harrison and make someone else beat you, is that strategy something that Ryan Day expects to see continue this year, even with Emeka Egbuka having a big year on the other side of the field?
When we get that style of defense, we have to make sure that, we're, creating, as many explosive plays in the other areas and attacking the defense where the coverage isn't, and I think to your point, you're talking about bracket coverage in particular. You got to find the one-on-ones, and we got to win the one-on-ones in those situations. But then there's also things on first and second down that you might see, and whether it's running the ball or finding a matchup at another position, the more we do that, the more pressure it takes off Marvin.
Here is a great stat from Nathan Baird of Cleveland.com. The longest touchdown given up by the Ohio State defense through 4 games is 2 yards. I heard that. I thought that can't possibly be right. And then I thought back and it was like, no, that actually is true. 2 yards. So in a year when limiting explosive plays was a very, very big goal all through the offseason, how did that process go over the year to get from where they were last year, where they gave up a bunch of big plays at the end of the year and a couple of losses, to this point where they are now? Were Ryan Day and Jim Knowles collaborating on that?
I mean, we talk constantly about the pluses and the minuses, and when you look back on a season, the easy thing to do is overreact. We got to make sure that we're doing what's right for this group. It's a different group than we had last year. Figuring out as the season goes on, how do we want this to look at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, the end of the season, because that's very, very different. But I think, there's bigger challenges ahead. First 4 games in the books, you've seen some improvement there. But we know in all areas, including on defense, we got to continue to grow and get better. And again, the encouraging thing is you watch the film, there's plenty of areas Jim will tell you that we can get better at.
Jim Knowles has talked earlier in the fall about the fact that he is blitzing less than he ever has before this fall and still getting those results. So what is Ryan Day seeing, and how do you find that balance between not being too aggressive and giving up too many big plays, but also not being too passive and sitting back too much?
Jim loves to blitz, and he will. He's always going to be aggressive. We're not going to be bend but don't break. But at the same time, when the front 4 can get can affect the line of scrimmage and get a pass rush, then certainly takes pressure off of the blitzing. But I mean, I know he's got a whole bunch of blitzes lined up down the road for when the right time comes in. He's got a great defensive mind, and finding that balance is critical. But I think that we are using our hands a little better. Our pad level's gotten better. Still can improve in all areas. We can still get our hands on more and more throws, run the ball, create turnovers. There's a whole laundry list of things. But to this point, we have improved in certain areas.
Now on to Jim Knowles, and he has a unique challenge this weekend. The Buckeyes facing the unbeaten Maryland Terrapins and their quarterback, Taulia Tagovailoa. He's a 5th-year senior completing 65.7% of his passes this year. That's not bad. 1,464 yards and 13 touchdowns. So what kind of a challenge does a quarterback like Taulia Tagovailoa present for the Buckeyes?
He's always been a dynamic player. I mean, he creates offense. He has a really strong arm. He can make the throws from sideline to sideline. He hurt us with some plays last year. I just think he's a great player, but he's also making good decisions.
Tagovailoa is a big part of Maryland's success on offense so far this year, but the offensive line has been doing its job as well. They've only given up 3 sacks all season. So when you're facing a combination of a quarterback and an offensive line like that, how do you generate pressure?
You have to try to keep them off balance. At the same time, it's really got to be a coordinated rush. I mean, because you see multiple instances of guys coming free and he makes them miss. I mean, scot-free. So, really, there's a lot of coordination involved in trying to contain him. It's got to be a big part of the game plan.
We talked earlier about the lack of big plays given up by the Ohio State defense and that 2-yard touchdown stat. But when Nathan Baird of Cleveland.com asked Jim Knowles about that, very funny moment, Knowles kind of knocked on the lectern, the wooden lectern, just to, boy, don't jinx us. It was basically the unsaid message there. So what is Jim Knowles seeing that is leading to that kind of success?
Seeing a lot of resiliency. I'm seeing, a get better approach, accountability in mistakes, across the board. If they're made, how do we fix them? I just feel like everybody's working together. That's the biggest thing. It's always, what have you done for me lately? That we need to focus on and keep pressing forward. But there's enough good things that we can look at and say, look, this was good, and there are enough things that we can fix, to always stay hungry.
We will have much more coverage of the Buckeyes as they head into that game against Maryland at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And of course, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle on Wednesday night. Tony Gerderman and I are going to have a live show after the player interviews live from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Hit that bell so you get notified when we go live, and we'll bring you some content there. Things we learned talking to the Buckeyes in the lead up to that game against Maryland. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.